Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Although, I don't actually have my headset plugged in.
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
It was, it was going through the mic and the speaker on the computer rather than on the headset, so I was just sitting here looking like a telephone operator for no apparent reason.
Oh.
And Pelzel's here. Hello.
Hello. It worked.
It did.
Amazing.
Yeah, cross your fingers.
Well, if it gets bad, we can probably turn off the video and just go to audio.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just going to get the PowerPoint up on my other computer.
Just in case. I can do screen share here, so hopefully that'll work. I will do true confession. This is the first time I've done anything other than just chat on Google Hangout, so you might have to bear with my learning curve here. And I just got a message from Colette, and she said she would be here any second. So, and Claudette just sent call-in numbers.
Call-in numbers.
Yeah, I think in case Google doesn't work, then we can always go back to the conference call. Part of the challenge for me, you know what I'm going to do here. I got a message earlier, too, that said Claudette was here already. Which... does anyone have anything else for the agenda items other than lean thinking, next steps for basically project management and the survey?
Nope.
Nope, sounds good to me.
All right.
You start hearing a bunch of noise in the background, it's just because I'm printing something.
Oh, okay.
Your lean thinking Google Doc.
Yeah, I should, I will say and I will add in the lean thinking canvas is about 90% Ash Murya, so he really should get the credit for that. It is heavily based on running lean.
You know, back before this fashionable term, it was just called being cheap.
Yeah, getting things done. Yeah, flying by the seat of your pants. It went by a whole bunch of other names. I'm wondering where the others are.
Yeah, I got a note saying that Claudette is there.
Yeah, but I don't see her. Hmm.
I just saw it's 10 pages. I got to put more paper in.
Oh, now I feel bad about the trees.
Yeah, this is just my little desktop printer too. There's another one that I can at least print back to back on.
Hmm. Well, I'm going to bring up this slideshow. All right. So do you see the slideshow now?
Yeah, I do. I'm seeing it off my phone rather than off my computer because I don't have my big
Yeah.
speaker things. I just have this little thing. I'm in Quebec City, so I'm in the Eastern time zone today.
Oh, so I'm the only one getting up early for this.
Well, Bob's semi-early. He's just 2 hours ahead.
That's true.
9 is very early.
Yeah. All right. What do we do? Should we send out a search party?
Yeah, I would text on my phone, except I'm using it to do the Google Hangouts with you.
I don't know that I have their phone numbers.
Yeah, I don't think I have phone numbers. I might have Colette.
I have both phone numbers. I'll just have to bring them up. Which one do you want first?
Either one.
Okay. Okay, Claudette's mobile number is 613 731
731.
6564.
All right, and that's Claudette?
Claudette.
Okay.
And I'll look up Colette's for you. Colette's mobile number is 514 402 9626.
All right.
Goodness. Okay, Claudette is sent a text message saying having problem with her sound. She can see us but can't join in. So is there a chat function? There should be a chat function.
There is a chat function, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe let her know about that. But there's no word from Colette. So.
All right. I'm wondering, ask her if, actually, because
I'll just say there is a chat function.
'Cause I'm wondering if she's in a different meeting, because it should actually list her. But she said she can hear us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She says she can hear us, but there's not she can't join in. Where is the chat function on the thing? I'll see if I can direct her to the chat.
I'm not entirely sure how your screen looks. On mine, the chat is a little box on the lower right-hand corner.
Yeah, I don't have, let's see.
That's one of the challenges with, there's a difference between Hangout and Hangout on Air, and this is a Hangout on Air, which is set up more for presentations. And obviously, I wonder, did she get us a different invitation? Because I sent the link in the email. How did you both join? Did you click the link on the email, or
No, I just went on to, I have Google Hangouts on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
What, Ben?
It's Bob. I came in through the email, but I did have to allow plugins for both video and audio. I had to allow 2 different plugins, so it's possible she didn't allow the audio plugin.
Okay. I'm just not seeing her on the chat either.
Okay, somebody else messaged me.
That would probably be Colette.
Oh, and Colette says, can see Bob Cram, but don't know where to chat function. So
Okay.
both Colette and Claudette can see us.
Okay, and can't hear.
Uh-huh.
All right. Let's see. Let me see if I can. No, I have control over your, Bob and Thelzel, I have control over your video and audio through something they call the control room, but I don't have Colette or Claudette on here. I'm imagining what's happening is that they're coming in through a sort of a broadcast function rather than a participant function, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I can probably do one other thing here.
Texting them.
I was thinking about bringing up a separate.
I wonder, can they see the PowerPoint as well? Because I can see, I'm in the PowerPoint part, and up on the upper left I can click on chat. I can see on the upper left it's a blue icon near the very top.
Oh, so that's where the chat function is. I'll give them that instruction if they see it.
The other thing too, from mine, I just realized when I was looking at the PowerPoint, it disappears until you mouse over it on the left-hand side.
Right. Yeah.
So they might have to mouse over the left-hand side of the screen.
Yeah, same here. You mouse over it, and then it suddenly appears.
So it's in the top left?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just told them there's a top left chat function in the top left.
You have to mouse over, though, first.
Okay. Okay, you need to mouse over.
There's also, I can see on the very top, a mute microphone button. They might have their microphones muted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just texted them those instructions. Hopefully it comes through. Did you lose me on video?
Yeah, we just have your lovely picture up now.
Okay. Oh, of me or?
Of you, yeah.
Photo there.
I like my avatar.
I haven't seen your avatar, I don't think. Oh, I did wear. I did on. I did.
I actually don't see you on the bottom of the either Ben anymore. The only person.
Oh, I think I can either have the screen share or me. So okay. my camera goes off whenever I'm sharing the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Okay. Colette can hear everything we're saying. She says, "Can see Bob Cram, but don't know where the chat function is. Yes, I clicked the link on the email. Can hear you also. You just can't speak, or she can't speak."
Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's go through the presentation. If there are any questions, Thelzel, is it okay if they chat through you?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just say we will go through presentation. Okay. Send chats to me.
Well, and they can hear, so hopefully they'll get that message right away.
I wonder if they're in the PowerPoint, though, if they can't see the chat function. Because they might still be at the kind of Google Hangouts page.
But how would they see you?
Because if I go there, oh yeah, I can't see me anymore either. I just see your your PowerPoint. Anyway.
The PowerPoint that you had sent earlier, like
yeah.
This one, okay, they may have gone through there.
Yeah, but he's loaded the PowerPoint onto the Google Hangouts page, so if that's what they should be seeing, and if they're there and if they can hear me, well, if they scroll over to the left, there should be a menu bar appear, and right at the second from the top is a blue icon for chat. Anyway.
Yep. It would be excuse me. It would be nice if everyone was here, we could share each other's screens and see what they're seeing. But since we can't troubleshoot with their screens to see what they're seeing, so we know how they can actually see us. If that makes any kind of circular logic. All right, let's go through this, and I've designed it to be very light, very high level, and you can save up any questions for the end, and we can then maybe switch over to a conference call at the end to talk it through. It's just nice to be able to sort of see something visually at the same time. The real goal for me in all of this lean talking, it's like Thelzel was saying, if you were hearing at the beginning, now there's a thing called lean startup, lean thinking, lean methodology. Before, we just kind of called it, thinking by the seat of your pants and making do. There are, let's see if I can. There are a number of related ideas to lean thinking that are all developing around the same time. And you have heard people talking about design thinking, which is a very close alternative to lean thinking. There's something called agile project management, which is a way of sort of doing a more iterative approach to actually tracking tasks and people and obligations on projects. At a more academic level, there's something called complex adaptive systems theory, which is trying to model how complex things like natural ecosystems or social networks work. And they're finding very similar things. And for me, as a social scientist, I think a lot of people are just rediscovering the basic scientific method again. And the reason why I think a lot of people are coming to this is as more and more people are starting to do business planning, as more and more organizations are thinking about things like strategic plans or social enterprise or fill in the blank, people are coming up against the limits of planning. In particular, there is this myth of the perfect business plan or the perfect plan ever. And the challenge is that people spend a lot of time worrying over a lot of details before they really have the available information that they need to figure out those details. So the reality is that most of those plans, the energy that people put in up front on those plans goes to waste because as soon as they start working on them, they discover that their first plan just doesn't work. And asked Maria, who wrote the book Running Lean, and is a big proponent of lean thinking. He did a lot of research, or has access to research, where they found that the #1 reason why startups fail, and I think you could fill in the blank for not just startups, isn't because they don't do what they say they're going to do, but it's because they spend too much time, money, and effort building the wrong solution. And especially whenever you're doing something like what we're trying to do, where we're reconceptualizing and rethinking how LDA-C can work and what are some different models for how we could start to generate some sustainable revenue. You know, we're really tipping into a new territory. And some of our ideas are going to be right, and some of our ideas are going to be wrong. And so we need to figure out a way of being light and nimble and responsive and learning on the fly. And that's really, I think, the understanding of what lean thinking is. And there are 4 basic principles, or 4 foundation principles. And you can change the number at will if you'd like. Design thinking, I think, has 5 steps, or that. But they're basically the same thing, which is start where you are, organize your thoughts, organize what you already know, organize your best ideas, get it down into a form where you can refer to it, but that you're really only doing that as a way of moving on from there. So document your starting place. The second principle is to focus on your learning return on effort, or focus on really the elements that are most important to moving you forward. And that's going to change over time. But it's a shifting focus on what do we need to know now to move to the next step. And then the really important part in all of this, and I think the part that is sort of revolutionary, is constantly testing your ideas and figuring out light, simple, low-risk ways of testing some of your assumptions, testing some of your ideas before you start to invest more heavily in them. So you're constantly seeking feedback. You're trying to create a reality check in all of the things that you're doing. And then the last principle is that it's very iterative. And so what you're trying to do then is reflect on what you just experienced, figure out what the learning is from that, use that to refine, going back to your first step, refine where you think you're going and how you think you're getting there. And then you just keep repeating it until you hit something like success. So another sort of high-level and important idea is that what you need to do depends on where you are in the evolution of the project. Ash Maria in Running Lean divides it into 3 phases, and 3 is always a nice safe number. But really, you're talking about early conceptual phases, testing phases, and then growth phases. So the first thing that you need to be thinking about is what he calls problem-solution fit. And it's really where you're answering the question, do we have a problem worth solving? That is, are we getting at the need that people really want us to be getting at? In the context of LDA Canada, obviously there's something about learning disabilities that is a problem that causes problems for people that, that's obviously an important problem. But this is a sort of more granular way of thinking about it, which is our particular take on the problem the one that other people are going to relate to and understand and connect with? So it's really making sure that we're understanding what is the problem around learning disabilities from the perspective of the students who have them, the parents who have the kids with learning disabilities, from teachers' perspectives, from ministry perspective, from health and from labor and from education, but really trying to understand the problem and then saying what's the part of that we're going to tackle, and making sure that you're getting that right in a way that other people respond to, not just that we think it's a good idea. The second phase then is once you have a real clear understanding of what the problems are, and you can talk about them in a way that you get resonance with the people that you need to engage in the process. Then you need to actually start testing out solutions and making sure that you have a product. And forgive the language here, this is, it's all startup language, but that you have solutions that actually help and that fit the need and fit the resources available for the people that are interested in it. And then at the very end, once and only once you are sure that you have nailed the problem and that you have a solution that is actually moving in the right direction, then you worry about scaling it. So a lot of this is about keeping it small and growing it and figuring out when it makes sense to start to try to build out something. So underpinning a lot of this is that for the early phases, for most of the work for groups like us, you spend a lot of time sort of dabbling and trying things, and then finding the ones that are really worth putting energy into growing. So I like to use a lot of gardening metaphors, and you have to cast a lot of seeds to get the plants. And some of the seeds won't take, some of them will. Even once they take, you're going to want to thin them out sometimes, because there might be a number of plants that all seem to have some potential, but if you want a few really strong ones, then you've got to select the ones that are the most vigorous growers, and then you really put your energy into those ones that you've selected. So how does this high-level stuff shake down into some concrete actions that you can take? It's really quite simple. The power of the approach is you're not doing extremely heavy lifting in any one step, but you're iterating again and again and again. So the power lies in the iterations, not in each step of the process. The first step is really just documenting your plan A, getting it down. The language now is that you're creating a model as opposed to a plan, so a business model, where you're quickly laying out the important features. Who are you serving? What's the problem you're addressing? What's the solution you're proposing? How will it be funded? Those sorts of things. But you're literally doing it down and dirty, quick and dirty. You're filling in the boxes. The recommendation is that you do your first model in 20 minutes or less. And you're just getting the ideas out so that you have a starting point and not working it too much. Once you have your ideas on paper, you move on to step 2, which is identifying the riskiest parts of it. And we'll walk through, how to do that. But it's really then, once you have your ideas in one place, it's about focusing your energy on a few key things that will get you to the next step. And once you've identified those risks, you want to run some experiments. And in the language here, an experiment could be as simple as calling up a stakeholder and saying, hey, we have this idea for something, what do you think about it? That counts as an experiment. They don't have to be complicated, they don't have to be labor intensive. The important thing is that you're getting out of your inner circle and you're getting feedback from people who have different perspectives and different interests in it. So you're doing some real world testing to see, how do your ideas shake up. And then of course you just keep repeating, and each time you repeat it, you're trying to capture the learning and refine your ideas and move on to the next step. So documenting your plan A is really just about filling out canvases. That's just their word for this sort of template. There are a number of boxes. Each box has a little question behind it. The one that is on your screen right now is the Lean Business Canvas. But there's also another one that I've found that I would like us to use, which is from an organization called Imagination for the People, and they have a piece of software called My Social Business Model. So it takes the same thinking and it focuses in on social enterprises like ours, where it's more purpose and mission oriented, and it's not so much about, how are we going to capture the market and make a profit, but it's instead how are we going to solve this problem and make an impact. But the approach is the same. My social business model has a wonderful walkthrough method where you just, it will take you through the steps and you answer a few questions and then synthesize it onto the canvas. And I'll link you up to that at the end. But it really is, it's the basic questions about who are we serving, what's the problem we're solving, how do we think we're addressing it, what are the resources we need to do it. Laid out in a simple way so that we can see it all at once. important things about doing the Canvas is it's not, you want to avoid analysis paralysis. You want to avoid the illusion that we're going to have the perfect plan and then we just hit go and we implement it. So the first time you do this, you want to just do it fast, get down your answers. It's okay to be guessing at some things, and it's okay to leave some things blank. That actually becomes a wonderful source of information, because if there's a section that's blank, that's probably your riskiest part. Or at least it's going to be high up there in terms of the risk associated with it. So the exercise is really just about capturing our current thinking and not worrying about trying to get it to some sort of level of perfection. The next step is about identifying where you need to focus your energy in testing it, and that, of course, depends on your stage of development. So if you're very early in the process, obviously you're going to be more interested in, do we have an understanding of what the problem is, and can we test that that understanding is really resonating with people. When you get later in the process, where you're looking at things like, you know, how do we grow this, then your risks are going to be more sort of operational in terms of, you know, how are you reaching your potential clients and how do you grow it. But the key is really, you want to make sure that you're aware of where you are in the development cycle. The second thing that you want to take into account is your experience level and your uncertainty, or your certainty. And uncertainty is not the same as risk, because there are some things that we may not know or understand right now, but it's fine because we're at the beginning stages and it's not really that important yet. But the things that we are more certain of, the things that we have a fairly good idea because we've done them already, we know that they work, we can kind of remove them from the risky sheet. We don't have to spend a lot of energy validating things that we're already certain of or fairly certain of. But where there's uncertainty, then the next question is does this affect our critical path? Does this affect our ability to actually accomplish our goals? Some things are obviously more important than others when you're thinking about risk. And you know, for example, long-term funding is obviously going to be critical to the long-term success of the organization. So if we have, say, one bit of uncertainty about how we phrase a particular value proposition, you know, what we think we're doing, and we're not sure about how the phrasing is going to resonate with maybe a different group, one of our stakeholder groups. If one of them controls a big pot of money and one of them doesn't, we're going to be more interested in testing it out with the people that are going to, you know, that stand between us and sustainable funding. So these are really the things that you want to be scanning once you get your model on the canvas. Then you want to be thinking, well, where is there some uncertainty? Where are we in the process, and how does this uncertainty affect our ability to achieve success? And then you want to pick a very few, 1, 2, maybe 3, but you know, in the low single digits, problems that you want to address and that you want to look at. And then from those, from those are the ones that you want to actually address. The image that I'm showing, I forgot that I threw this in here. There's something that Ash Maria calls the customer factory. And again, even though it's sort of in startup language, it's a really simple way of understanding and thinking about the critical path for our success. And the idea is, you see the arrow from the left with a group of people. So the factory is basically where we deliver our service, where we do our magic. So the first thing that we need to do to create happy people is we need to make sure that there are people finding us in the services that we offer. So the first question is, how do we bring people to the factory? Then once they're in the factory, how do we make sure that we're delivering things that make them happy and satisfied? Once they are happy and satisfied, we take into account a couple different things. The arrow to the top is, how do we get them to come back? You know, how do we get them to use us again and again, or to make use of the services that we're offering on an ongoing basis? The one to the bottom is how do they tell their friends about us so that we're getting referrals from people who are impressed with the work that we're doing. And then the arrow to the right is how do we then get money for what we're doing. Now, the people that are using the services may not be the same people who are doing the are funding the process, but there's going to be some connection between those services and the way that the money is returning to us. So in terms of the critical path, we have to think about things like how do people find out about us? How do we deliver the things we're servicing or that we're offering? How do we make sure that people refer us and come back again? And how do we make sure that the people who have the money to continually fund our operation recognize the value in what we're offering? So, that's our critical path to success. Once we've identified those really focused high level, or those really focused risk areas, then we need to start testing. And when we're testing our assumptions, we need to know what exactly we're testing for. So, how do we put that into a very concrete and specific objective? And also, why are we testing it? So we need to know not just we want to get X number of people who sign up for our newsletter or something like that, but why is this critical to what we're doing? The next thing we want to do is we want to develop some counter hypotheses. And there is a known problem in human behavior called the confirmation bias. And we all tend to look and seek out evidence that confirms what we already believe to be true, which can be a huge fatal flaw when you're starting a new project, because it's really easy to look for a few signs that we're on the right path and then say, oh yeah, that's great, full steam ahead, what you're really doing is ignoring some hints that there are some things that aren't working. And rather than paying attention to those and incorporating that into your next step, you just basically live in a little denial until the problems become so big that you can't ignore them. And then you have big problems to find. So a counter hypothesis is basically saying if what we want to happen is lots of people sign up for our newsletter because they really love LDA-C, then we have to test the counter hypothesis, which is what would be signs that not enough people are signing up. So we want to test the opposite, if that makes any sense. And then finally, we want to come up with some, before we even start the experiment, we want to come up with some concrete measures of what would count. So what would be good enough? And they have to be things that you can observe, that you can quantify to some degree, and where you can establish something like a benchmark where you say below this number it doesn't work, above this number it does. The reason why it's important to do that before you start is if you start the experiment without that kind of very concrete benchmark, it's very easy to then start to sort of talk yourself into, oh, this is good enough. Now, obviously, whenever you're setting these benchmarks, they're not going to be very accurate. They're not going to necessarily capture the goal perfectly, but you just need to set it to start. And then that's also part of the learning. For example, you could say, well, we want to get 50 new people to sign up to our newsletter to show that we're going and you get 48, and it feels like those 48 are just fine. Well, you're not going to be so compulsive about it that you're going to say, well, we missed it by 2, that's it, we're shutting down. But it might also be that you say, we want 50, we're going to set 50 as our target, and then you realize that lots and lots of people are signing up for the newsletter, but no one's actually opening it. So you get 100 people that sign up, but no one's actually looking at your newsletter, no one's responding to it, and all of a sudden you're going to say to yourself, well, 50 may not be a good enough number. We thought that was good enough, but it turns out lots of people are just signing up for whatever reason. The examples might be a little lame, but you understand what I'm saying, that you need to establish some sort of concrete line in the sand that you can run your experiment against so that you have a way of knowing whether or not you're successful. And then basically it's about repeating that process over and over again until you refine and you factor that back into what you're doing. So that's really at the high level. That's all we're talking about doing. It's about documenting your ideas, identifying the high-risk areas, and then designing some small, lightweight experiments that are appropriate to where you are, where you can start to test those ideas and refine them. I guess one of the things I should have mentioned too with the experiments is that it's often useful to have a few different ideas that you're testing out in your experiment. So, if our goal was to increase the number of people signed up to our newsletter, we might try a couple different ways of doing the newsletter and send them out to a couple different groups to see how many people are interested in them. So that we're comparing a couple of our options, and we're using that to make choices about how we refine our approach. There's some tools too that I put together to kind of go into doing this. The first one is, like I said, mysocialbusinessmodel.org, and I've sent you invitations all to just a canvas that I started. I didn't fill in anything for it, but it does walk you through the process. Actually, I have them up. In a second, I'll go and we can look at that screen together too. And then I also created a Google document where it lays out basically what I talked through that you can go back to. And at the end, there are some videos. And the videos are largely, I think, Ash Maurya. So when you're watching them, keep in mind that he's talking about basically tech company startups. But a lot of the fundamental stuff still makes sense for us as well. So if you want to get more details about doing the canvas or how to run an experiment or what the customer factory is, those are all at the end there. I think that is it in terms of yes. So I'm going to let me just bring up one other screen here. All right, I think I can do this. So I'm going to share, this is the actual my social business model canvas. So along the left-hand column, you see at the very top there's a light bulb, and then each of these icons. So you can see each of the icons correlates with one of the boxes on the canvas. And if you click on the icon, it will eventually bring up a set of questions that it will walk you through. Eventually. So for the social challenge, it will ask you to write out what's the problem you're trying to solve, the needs of your partners, and then give you a space where you can bring those ideas together. And then where you write the synthesis, that automatically gets placed on the canvas. Likewise, it goes down through each of these different boxes. It will ask a series, 2, 3, 4 big open-ended questions. When you write down your answers, then it gets deposited on the canvas, and it becomes a way of just sort of capturing, like I said, where we are right now, our best thinking so far. In terms of how we'll need to proceed, in terms of the Phoenix project, or the Phoenix project and LDA-C and its business model, what I would propose is that we're probably going to do multiple canvases, and we'll want to do for any of the potential social enterprises that we start to develop, we'll definitely want to develop a canvas around that, so that we're thinking about it as almost like one of our product lines. But I think it would be useful as a team for us to do one for LDA-C as an organization, and be thinking about, we could probably do even a couple where we might think about LDA-C as a social enterprise appealing to, for example, corporate funders, or appealing to ministry funders. And how do we answer these questions if we're thinking about our potential revenue stream through these various agencies who might fund us not for the particular social enterprises that we're doing, but for the work that we're doing as an organization in total. I think that would be useful for a couple of reasons. One is, and probably the most important one, is actually it would get us an opportunity to walk through these questions and try to answer them and see how they work, so that we can get greater familiarity with the process. But also, I think it would help get a conceptual level understanding of LDA Canada and where are some of our strengths and opportunities. That is, I think, all I really wanted to cover in terms of the lean thinking. So again, I intentionally wanted to keep it very high level in keeping with the spirit of lean thinking. What will happen, what I would encourage us to do is actually start trying it. And then there's going to be the greatest learning will happen as we start to try to answer these questions and put together a canvas for LDA-C. And of course, then that's where you start to the rubber hits the road, and a lot of these ideas start to evaporate when you try to grab them. So, questions, comments, suggestions?
2 questions. One is that I clicked on your link to the My Social Business Model, and I tried to log in. I don't accept my usual password, so there's a way of getting a new password. And second question, I guess is more complicated, will involve the others, is that what could we choose to experiment on My Social Business Model? Maybe one of the rally projects, maybe one newsletter, one that you talked about, or the overall structure of the organization itself, because that's a big one. And I do see some merit in just having our small group putting our ideas down and getting some sort of borders around our thinking before we expand it to the larger group. But that's a huge one. So that's my other question. So want to answer the first one first, like the technical thing, like how do I get a new password?
I will have to research that. I'll have to find out on the password. I'll check that out.
Okay.
Bob, when I logged in, it just asked me to give to set my own password, and so I did. I just so I don't know. I got to a login page that required me to sort of create an account, so that was easy for me. But
I'll check it out, and if not, we can always play the system and delete you and then re-add you and see if that works. I haven't poked around in the behind the scenes for the business model canvas.
Okay. So the second bigger question, does anybody have anything to say? And I will try to message as much as I can. But I do see the messages from Colette and Claudette earlier, on this.
Yeah.
So the one thing I would say about I think it's a really good. It is the key question right now. Is where do we start? I think that there might be some rally projects that would lend themselves to a canvas. There might be some though where it just doesn't quite fit. And actually, I think the newsletter is one, because I'm not sure with a newsletter if it makes sense to think about what's the problem you're solving and how do I want to say this? The newsletter, in my mind, seems like it might be a simple enough and straightforward enough project that you'd be kind of hitting a mosquito with a sledgehammer to come up with a canvas for it. Other rally projects, though, definitely I think will benefit from having a canvas, like the research portal. I think that's one where obviously thinking about who's going to use it and how does it have to work from their perspectives, and how do we create happy users. I think that could be really productive.
Colette has messaged me. She says, how about using the update of the work module with New Brunswick and how to operationalize maybe more effectively? So I'm referring to this tool as to how to tell if you have LD.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's actually sort of right down the lane for an appropriate project for a Canvas.
Yeah, the other thing about that project is I think all provinces are already using that and have been using it for many years, and so are supportive of it, and they also see it as something that LDA-C provided a real value add, even though it originated in New Brunswick. So, but LDA-C sort of made it national, and now they're just doing an update on it.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, most of them are already in. At least I know our province is very, very involved in it. So.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a quick win in terms of, getting greater support for the national organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
I do think
that sounds like a good one that we could start because Colette, Bob, and I are in agreement for using that one.
I think we may also want to do. It should. I guess there's an open sequencing question. In the end, I think to satisfy HRSDC, we're going to want to have something like this for LDA-C. We're going to want to have something documented that we can say, look, as an organization, we have a plan. You can use these canvases in a nested way, so that you can say, for the organization, here's our high-level canvas, and then here are our product lines, so to speak, where you could have a few sub-canvases that support the larger canvas, and that becomes sort of your working business plan. But I do think that I'm just trying to make sure that we're going to satisfy the requirements of the grantors, and also that I think it would be very useful as an organization that we're thinking not just about the little projects, but also then how do those little projects work together to create a sustainable organization. Because we need to tackle questions about organization and sustainable funding and marketing and all those sorts of things. So,
sorry, Claudette writes, I really think that as a committee we need to set some time aside and do this exercise. The structure of the organization in regards to appealing to funders' canvas. And Colette has actually said something as well. A form of a canvas, how and what to communicate, frequency and consistency of the communication, read the newsletter. So I guess there's, oh goodness, they're both messaging me so quickly. Claudette says, the New Brunswick idea is a good one. I'll vote for this.
Awesome. Nice to have consensus so quickly.
Yeah, it's an obvious one.
Yeah, and I do think in terms of with the communication, well, actually, I don't know if this. I think that would be great for the team. I guess I'm supporting Claudette's message, if I'm understanding it correctly. I think it would be really useful and valuable for us as a team to go through the exercise on our own with something, whether it be something that is meaningful but may not necessarily be the ultimate product, just so that we become more familiar with how it works and actually have that experience. I see this team then, I think one of the leadership roles that the team can play is once we all understand this way of thinking and this way of working, then we're in a better position to support other teams that we come in contact with and demonstrate the value of being able to work this way. So, I think we need to make sure that we're feeling very comfortable and competent at using the tool. Then we can then be sort of ambassadors to to rally teams, to rally project teams, and help them think through how to use the tool on what they're doing. Know when it's a good idea, know when it fits, all that sort of thing. So I think we need to, basically we just need to jump in and do it on something and then see how that goes and use that experience.
Okay, there's a number of processes to dealing with the Canvas. Usually it works when we are all physically in one place, and we use that Canvas like a big whiteboard. We all go up there and put the little Post-it notes up on there. But maybe to start this exercise with that New Brunswick module is that if we each that if we set another time as a committee to come together to go through this Canvas, but before that happens, we each do our little rough sticky notes on that Canvas, and then we can discuss what we each wrote at our first meeting. Is that a good plan? What do you think?
Yeah, and I will throw out an option to the real-time board, the online whiteboard that we used for part of the online summit. We can easily set up a Canvas and do a real-time Post-it note exercise with a Canvas like that. So this team, we could just schedule another time, set up one of those real-time whiteboards, and everyone play with it, and be creating your own Post-it notes. We could do that, or we could go through the my social business model process. I think there's sort of pros and cons to both ways of doing it. The pro to using the Canvas is that we would all be doing it together at the same time. The pro to doing it on the My Social Business Model site is that each person could do it in their own time, at their own and just kind of walk through those questions and get an understanding of it. So it's sort of doing it collaboratively versus being able to have more time and being able to do it at your own pace. And I think either one will work well. It's really, I think, just the preference of the group.
Yeah, well, this is, okay, I'm going to read what Claudette has written. Yes, we need to become familiar with the tool by doing the Canvas exercise. How do we do this? She puts procedure with several question marks. And I'll have to say that this is new territory for me in types of procedure, because I've never done this business Canvas exercise in a virtual setting. I've always done it in person with everybody in the room.
Yeah.
So is it realistic for us to try to recreate that experience by having that whiteboard real-time discussion? Because that would be the closest.
Yeah, I think it's doable. We're a small enough group, right? There's only 5 of us. So I think that generally the technology is good enough to support us working as a team on the whiteboard, and I think that we could do it. It would have almost the same value as doing it in a room. Obviously, it's always more energizing to be in a room with other people and do it that way. So I think we would lose a little bit of the sort of the fun and spontaneity that happens if you're in the same room. But I think we could definitely, the technology would cover us. I think we'd be fine that way. It is, and we could also do a little bit of both. Like everyone could walk through the questions, not just think through your answers, and then we could come together and kind of post our answers at the same time and talk it through.
Claudette message: I prefer the collaborative method with whiteboard.
Okay.
So there we go.
You said Colette or Claudette?
Claudette has messaged me.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the collaborative method with whiteboard. So.
Are there any other strong feelings one way or the other from Bob or Colette? Or you, Phil?
My only thought is that we should do it in a way that will mirror what we actually try to do later with the groups. I mean, if part of this is to help us learn, then let's use the method that we'll use later.
Mm-hmm.
With the larger group.
That makes sense.
Well, I should add I'm watching my battery burn out
on
my laptop, and I don't have a power cord with me, so I think I'm good for a little while, but if I suddenly cut out, it's probably because my battery went dead.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not something we said to you or anything. Okay. All right. Well, then let's set up a time that we could do this exercise. Just the 5 of us.
Okay.
Before Bob's battery runs out. So this time slot, 8 o'clock on Pacific time is fine for me. Just pick a day, just not a Tuesday.
I will say I'm willing to do it at this time, but obviously I may not be. I'm not a morning person, so I'm a little woolly brained at 8 o'clock. But I obviously can function. So if this is the time that works for other people, and if it's the easiest time for us to pick, let's do it.
Okay. How about you, Bob?
Yeah, well, next Wednesday would work. I would have to finish though within an hour because I've got another important meeting afterwards that I need to travel to get to it. So we'd have to contain it to exactly 1 hour. But if we did that, that would work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Colette says she's flexible. She agrees with Bob, and believes that she says okay for a time period. So if I interpreted wrong, I'm sure she'll let me know.
All right.
So can we do Wednesday the 8th?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. Is that okay for everybody? Bob?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so I'm just waiting to hear back from Claudette and Colette. Wednesday the 8th at 8 o'clock Pacific, which will make it 11 o'clock Eastern. I'm still waiting for a cent. Okay, there's 3 of us and only 2 of them. It's the majority rules.
All right.
All right, so let's put it Wednesday the 8th at 8 a.m. Pacific, unless we hear otherwise.
All right. And just so we're clear on the goal, we're going to do New Brunswick as an example?
Yeah, the New Brunswick screening tool.
Great.
Screening for Success, I think it's called.
Screening for Success. All right.
We'll need Claudette to send some material for us to work with. Okay, Colette says Wednesday, 8 o'clock at 8 Pacific time is okay.
Great.
So that, yeah. And, gosh. And Claudette says we need to start from the same point of reference, a clear question on the New Brunswick. Okay, for this time, Wednesday the 8th is fine with me. So everybody says it's okay. And Claudette just repeated what I just said, which is that we need to start from the same point of reference. So I'm going to ask Claudette with sending us all material so that we're starting from the same point.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good. And what my goal will be, I will set up a Canvas for us. And I would appreciate, if at all possible, for everyone to take a look at the questions that lead into things, just to walk through the My Social Business Model, I don't know what to call it, their process. Just to look through the questions to try to get a sense of the sorts of things that go into those different boxes. And then we can go from there. You don't necessarily have to fill out the Canvas, but I think it'd just be useful if everyone gets a chance to take a look at it beforehand.
Okay.
And all right, so I think we're set on the lean canvas. That feels resolved to me. Are there any other things that we need to address or on the lean canvas? We still have 2 other quick points that I want to cover before we end the call.
Not from me.
Okay. We can come back if
my battery charger.
Oh dear.
All right. We'll put that on the list. So the 2 other things. One is very, very quick, which is just the survey is with the translation is just about done. Colette, I got your note. we can be in communication about that last little bit. I've also had I have a couple different translators that I work with, and I'm having them compare both of the translations, and we've got it 95% ready to go. There were a few things that were not sort of translation issues, but really just sort of issues that came up while Colette and Claudette were doing the translations. And I don't have my notes in front of me, but I'm trying to remember. One was the I can't remember whether it was a success factor, but it was in one of the phases. One of the things we were talking about being learning from experience, and Colette doesn't like that in English or in French, and Claudette offered an alternative. I don't think that captures the spirit, the alternative. So I guess one of the questions that we have, I'm just going to bring it up while we're talking so I can speak with some clarity. While I'm waiting for this to come up, in terms of process, it's ready to go then as soon as we get the last little bits of the translation in there, so it will be ready today. When it is ready, the next steps are we need to promote it. And because we don't have a list of the people, we don't have a sample of the people that we're hoping will complete it, we're looking at the network to disseminate it. So we should think about what are the channels that we're going to use to promote it. Basically, it is a web link. There's a web page. We can give people that address. When they go, they can then answer the survey. We have a few control devices in there to make sure that people have some connection to LD issues. So it's okay that it's an open and public one. It's also, we're only using it for feedback. It is for reference for us to make decisions. We're not going to just take the responses to the survey and have that be the final answer. So we really need to think about how are we going to rally the troops to work their networks to get people to answer the survey. And I've got my survey up now. So anyhow, in terms of distribution, we also have a scheduled MailChimp newsletter coming out. I will be drafting some language for that, and I will have it to you by the end of the week. And then you can all let me know your thoughts on that, and then we'll plan on sending it out early next week. That'll give. I should have it by tomorrow, I think. So that'll give us 4 days plus the weekend to review it. So that'll be one channel. We also can post it to the Facebook page. That'll be another channel. A third channel is I would like very much for each of you to work your personal networks, your connections with the members, with the your provincial territorial associations, your friends, and get them to send out personal invitations.
Yeah, Claudette writes more than the sum of its parts. So that's our network.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's also one of the phrases. That was a translation issue. I did some research on that, and there's actually a page where they have ways that phrase has been translated into French, and unfortunately the answer is it gets translated in about 5, 10, 20 different ways. So there's some concern too about whether or not that is going to be a difficult phrase for people with LD to comprehend. Because we say our goal is for the system to be more than the sum of its parts. I am open to alternatives, but I cannot for the life of me think of another phrase that captures that, oh, we lost Bob. That captures that same sense. So.
Okay. We have a time set for next. So. Yeah. You're really good at summarizing making summaries, and you send it out with tasks for each
Right.
person to do. That would be really great.
I will do that, and I guess, I mean, the short version then is everyone just be aware the survey will be ready today, and so we need to all be thinking about how we're going to promote it. I will be making sure that it goes out through the MailChimp list. That's one mechanism, but we need to make sure that we have multiple mechanisms that are getting the word out far and wide, so that we can get as many people as possible here. I will I think it really is only, there's one or two phrases. I'll include that in the email for conversation. And I guess that takes us to the end, unless, are there any other outstanding issues that people want to bring up?
Not for me, and no messaging.
All right. Well, the lines of communication are open, so if there is something, we can do a quick email whip around and see if we can deal with it that way.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'll see you all next Wednesday.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.